Okay, so Fashion's Greatest Film has just put out a sequel and I'm ready to review it. We're just gonna sort of walk through the movie quickly and see what happens in this movie. So definitely it's gonna have some spoilers. So if you've not seen the movie, I would definitely suggest to just wait till you do that to watch this video. But I think yeah, it was a very interesting movie. I was ready to hate this movie like completely because the marketing of the movie was just whatever, and I was not sure if I'm gonna like it or not. But I gotta say that the movie was so much better than what I expected it to be. It definitely had like a point of view, it definitely had something to say, it had a perspective, it had a good storyline. I can definitely appreciate the script for what it was. The performances were good. I won't say that it's as iconic as the first one, definitely. I mean, sequels generally tend to sort of beat their originals, but I think it's definitely a good movie. And I think if you look at it as a standalone movie rather than compare it to the sequel, I think you would enjoy it more. And I think there are definitely like a lot of cute callbacks and just some sort of rehashes of some scene which do sort of tie into the first movie. But I think it's a very sweet movie, and I really liked what they were trying to say, though it's a bit optimistic, idealistic, and unrealistic at times. But well, it's a movie. So we're gonna go and jump into the movie very quickly now. Okay, so this movie is basically like one giant reminder that journalism is dying, unfortunately. Fashion is as chaotic as it was back then, like 20 years ago, and it still is. And Priestley can still sort of make a room feel like a thread as soon as she walks into it. The film opens with Andy Sachs, who's Anne Hathaway, in like full serious reporter mode. She's already like doing like this serious journalism. It feels like a full circle moment because that's what she wanted to do in the original movie. And not only is she doing like good work, she's also being recognized for it. And she's at this big award ceremony, and it seems like a big triumph for her. And yes, it is. She wins the award, right? And he has made it in life. She's doing good work. She has a voice. And of course, the movie's not gonna let her enjoy that for like a second, because right in the middle of her awards ceremony, as she's being announced, she gets a mail or whatever, and turns out the company that she's working for gets shut down. It's called Vanguard, because even in the movie the media industry is like hanging by a thread, so the whole company has shut down. Everyone is fired, no one has jobs anymore, and that good work has just like given them nothing in the end. And while Andy is dealing with all of that, a runway is going through a scandal. So apparently, I think there's a version of their Met Gala going on. Miranda makes this stunning entrance at the red carpet, wearing like this insane red gown. And people are like still struggling to see, how to deal with like Miranda. We see Simone Ashley as Amari as her first assistant. Nigel is still there. He's sort of keeping everything under control. He's keeping everyone calm down. Everyone is stressed. And then Miranda makes her entrance, and then there's a news leak apparently that one of the brands that Miranda and Runway has promoted as a luxury brand is apparently using like sweatshops, and it's like following the fast fashion business model. So now it's like on them because they like promoted it. And obviously it's a big scandal. Like there are like Miranda memes which are like kind of funny, because of course memes are the pulse of what the people are thinking of right now. And there's a big scandal, and Miranda is stressed that Irv is going to be mad. So Irv is still alive, and that was my first thought when I saw him. I was like, I cannot believe they still have Irv. It was crazy. He's the CEO, and also like a big part. He played a big part in the first movie. He's still there. He's still the CEO, and he's probably the only one who can sort of who holds Miranda's job in her hand. And they're dealing with the scandal, right? Runway is dealing with the scandal. Miranda is losing her credibility. People are questioning her and stuff like that. And then we see Irv has a son, and that son is BJ Novak. I love BJ Novak. He was Ryan from The Office, and he still feels like that. It just feels like if Ryan, like after 20 years, would be like this character. So he's a nepo baby. He's Irv's son. He's sort of helping his dad out with the company, but of course, dad is calling the shots. And sort of obvious that BJ Novak doesn't like really care about Runway that much. But yeah, the scandal is going on, and then and then Irv and BJ Novak. I can't even remember his name. What's his name? BJ Novak's name. Jay. It's Jay. So I'm just gonna call him Jay because I always mess up like the actor's name and the character's name. So I might do that in this video as well. So do excuse me for that. So yes, Jay and Irv decide to hire Andy because Andy is a good journalist, right? She talks about meaningful stuff. So they decide to bring like a more newsy journalistic person on board and sort of help navigate Runway and Miranda through this sort of scandal that they're going through. And this is kind of an interesting idea because she was the kind of person who Runway would have like just sort of chewed and spat out, with which they did. But now she's brought in as like an expert, someone with perspective, someone with like nuance, someone with like actual journalistic credibility. And contrasting to that, like in the first movie, she was just like a fresher right out of college, just like doing an assistant job. So it like really shows words matter in this like post print, post truth, post everything era, and the rather disappointing world of fashion media. It just kind of is like hilarious that they're bringing Andy back. And of course there's like tension, right? And oh my god, the entry, the Andy comes to the Runway office, she goes to Miranda's office, she's like, oh my god, hi Miranda. And Miranda's like, who's that? Like she doesn't even remember who Andy is. But it's kind of fair because for Miranda it was like 20 years ago. It was like she was like a junior assistant, not even like the main assistant. Like she called her Emily half of the movie. So it's kind of fair that she would forget her because people don't like really remember. It's very easy to forget, and Miranda was like never shown as a person who cared that much. But it's like it kind of makes sense that she would forget, but it's also kind of like really weird. But Nigel, of course, remembers her, and they have this like sort of quick catch up. Miranda doesn't like really struggle too much. She just sort of shook because she didn't know her, didn't tell her, and she sort of shook that Andy's here. But she is. But Andy settles in gradually. She starts doing her work. She puts out this article justifying the scandal, and it works well. People like really praise it. She starts giving Runway what it was missing, like a real point of view, not just like glossy content, because like a lot of Runway is content at that point, unfortunately. But I have to say, the way Andy was behaving when she came into the office, she was like still behaving like a journalist. I feel she was not as confident as she should have been. Like after so many years of working, traveling the world and doing this and that, she was just like still like so, she seemed so insecure as a character and a person in front of Miranda, which of course does signify how powerful Miranda is, but also I think it's not a good look for Andy. And all this time is happening, I forgot to mention this earlier. So before before Andy joins Runway, they are toying around with this idea, her and her friends, that maybe she should write a book, like a tell-all book about the author, which we of course know is like a play on how the Devil Wears Prada book was written by Anna Wintour's actual assistant, and her friends are trying to convince her that, oh my god, you can get like good money out of it. And Andy's like, oh my god, I don't know, it's so meta. I kind of loved this plot line. Such a good callback to like how the movie and the book sort of took place, how they happened, and how Lauren Weisberger sort of wrote this tell-all book. And but it's kind of like and it was so unexpected. Like really never thought that they would be that tongue in cheek, but it was really fun to see that. But yeah, Miranda is making like bitchy one liners to Andy. She's like, what is causing you to trudge? And Andy just like, oh my god, she's getting like PTSD, I think. But then as Andy's here, they go to have like a meeting with an important advertiser. This is like just after the scandal, and they go to meet this like super important advertiser because advertisers are king. Advertisers are of course king, we all know that. And who is that advertiser? Who are they going to meet? It's none other than Emily Charlton. She's working at Dior. She's a big shot at Dior, and of course she's like leveled up into like full fashion industry. She's like handling luxury retail, which she says that luxury retail is where the money is at, and which is so true. I mean, and I'm so happy to see Emily at like Dior because that's what she deserves. And I have to say, I was at this cinema, and as soon as Emily entered, she was the only one that people like sort of gasped and like cheered for. And it was such a cute moment. And oh my god, there's also this like one dialogue which is like, remember when magazines were a thing? And it's so bitchy and so true, and I love it. But yeah, now they're at the Dior office as fans. See, Emily is like still like sort of a badass, and Andy is just sort of like still justifying herself. And Emily is just so gorgeous. Emily is like intimidating Miranda because why not? She's exactly as sharp and intimidating as you would hope. There's like a lot of history between Andy, Miranda, and Emily, and the film like clearly reminds us that these women are not just co-workers. Like they are just co-workers from a past life. They are the sort of they have this sort of emotional architecture of like ambition and betrayal and this weird fiction. And Andy is just not the nice one. Miranda's not just the villain. Emily is just not like a side character. They all have power now. They are all like doing amazingly well. Because in the first movie there was like this very obvious sense of hierarchy, which is definitely there, but they've just switched it up because now Emily is the advertiser king, right? So Dior is apparently spending like 16%, and they need to keep Dior happy. And Emily is like, what is this scandal? Tables have like really turned, and Emily is intimidating Miranda, which is like iconic. And then she's negotiating, and she has this amazing dialogue, which is like, are we at a fish market? Which is like so iconic while they're negotiating. It's such a classic British teacher dialogue, I feel. I mean, yeah. So it was just really fun to see Emily on screen. But I have to say, I just really loved that they gave Emily like a non-magazine job. So then we meet some more characters. We meet like Andy's assistant, who is Jin. She's like this Yale graduate, and we see like second assistant. I can't remember his name. Some guy. Then Amari is doing good in her life. She's Amaria Simone Ashley is killing it. And then Andy finds out that Miranda has been trying to get this interview with this like billionaire divorcee, who I feel is trying to like, like there's so many billionaire, rich women who have just divorced from their tech bro husbands. So I think it's just an angle on that, and they're trying to get this like interview from Sasha. Her name is Sasha, and Sasha is played by Lucy Liu, icon. And Lucy Liu is not like really into giving her an interview, and Miranda like really tried that, but she couldn't like be successful in that. Andy finds that out, and Andy is sort of scared for her job because Miranda is just like not happy, or she just doesn't want her there. But Andy manages to secure a runway with Sasha, and Miranda is happy. And then Miranda takes the interview, and then we find out that Sasha has given like Runway like a big piece of gossip to like break that news, which is like she's getting remarried to this other guy. And Miranda's super happy. Miranda is happy. And then, like, for a brief 5 minutes, the movie is going really well. Everyone is happy. They're all having like a lunch at the Hamptons. Andy's wearing a hideous dress while she goes there. And it was just like going well. And Miranda is like giggling and telling Andy about how Irv is going to announce her as the global head of editorial. And they're very happy about it because Miranda was very stressed about that before. So everyone is happy. Then they have this like nice little lunch. No, sorry, they have like this nice little like fancy dinner party. And then we find out Emily is there, and Emily is dating a billionaire, Sasha's ex-husband. So the billionaire who divorced Sasha, Emily's dating him now. And it's kind of like, okay, Emily's like a billionaire girlfriend now, which is like interesting, but you're gonna understand that a bit more when I tell you the story forward. And as they're in this like fancy event, they're all like happy. It's like a good moment. And then Irv, the CEO, suddenly dies. He has not announced the promotion, the Miranda promotion, and he has died. And it's sad. The guy dies, and Miranda is left hanging. And I mean, that's one way to kill like the mood of the movie. Everyone is thinking about the future of fashion, and the next minute the man is gone, and the whole structure shifts again. His son, Beecher Novak, Jay, steps in, and immediately everyone is sort of stressed. Andy's stressed, Miranda is stressed, we don't know what's gonna happen. And this guy, in like true Ryan fashion, Jay, brings in like the most soul crushing corporate energy imaginable. He's like the classic management MBA guy, and he's the kind of guy who would like look at a creative institution as like a spreadsheet. He brings in management consultants, and then he takes like Miranda to lunch. But where do they go to lunch? They go to the lunch in a cafeteria in their office that Miranda didn't even knew existed. It's a really funny scene for sure. And then they have this like very traumatizing lunch with a lot of MBA executives. One of the guys calls her Miranda Beasley. They're talking about EBITDA. They're talking about numbers and this and that. But yeah, so this is happening, and it's very obvious. And then Andy finds out that they're actually planning cuts across the departments. They're gonna cut like the editor writing department. Writing always gets cut first, like they say in the movie. Then they're also cutting the art and everything. And apparently, seemingly to Andy, Miranda is not doing anything about it, which we don't know is true yet or not, but that's what it seems like. And one amazing scene that I forgot to mention is that you remember in the first movie, Miranda would just sort of throw her coats at the assistants. There's this amazing scene of Miranda trying to hang her own coat, and she's struggling. And Andy sees, and she's like, is Miranda hanging her own coat? And they're like, yeah, there was some HR complaints about it. Apparently, she should just throw it off. And it was just so funny, like that scene, like that sort of growth moment for Miranda. And Miranda's just like hating it, but there's like really no option. And that is a good thing. I mean, of course, I mean, you should not be throwing your coat at anyone, whoever you are, but it was really funny. But between all this, we have gotten some amazing. I really cannot sort of repeat every one liner that this movie has. It has a lot of them. They have like the dialogues are really good. It's still as quotable as the first one. Is really good. But now coming back to the story, so yes, they're making cuts and they apparently have to go to Milan for this like big shoot, and they're all flying economy because of course there are cuts. And Miranda goes to the plane in this gorgeous like blue Bottega Interratio bag, and she's flying economy. It's just too funny. It's really insane to see. And Andy's like, why is Miranda putting up with all of this? And we don't know why she's putting up with all of this, but she is. Okay. But I think they've definitely like humanized Miranda more. She's definitely more softer. She's more nice. She's not as steely as she used to be, which is a good thing, of course. She's still icy, but like not as bad. I mean, even she has to like fall into the lane and like, deal with capitalism and tech bros now. So it's kind of tragic, it's realistic, and it's absolutely fitting. And Andy is like spiral. Andy is spiraling for most of the movie. She's sort of crying all the time. She's scared of losing her job. She thought she was finally doing good at Runway, but now Runway is gonna get fucking cancelled and shut down. So she's kind of stressed. And now we're at Milan. Emily is in Milan for some reason, and she's of course living at Lake Como with her billionaire boyfriend. Andy's super stressed. She tries talking to Miranda about what's going on, what are we gonna do, how are we gonna save journalism, how are we gonna save the magazine, and Miranda sort of just like really doesn't give her anything to work with. She just sort of asks her to get out. Then they're in Milan. Andy's super stressed. Andy goes to Emily's room in the middle of the night secretly, and they have this conversation that we're not told what the conversation is. And then, after like some time, Andy and Emily go to Miranda's room to break the news, and then we find out what Andy has done. And what she has done is she has convinced Emily's billionaire boyfriend to buy Runway, and it seems like a good idea on the first thing, right? Like Emily is gonna help them out. She worships Runway. She was like the OG fashion girl who like literally would kill for that job. And Andy sort of convinces them, and they're like ready to buy Runway, and they go and tell Miranda. And then Miranda's like, I never expected this betrayal. And we're just like, what betrayal? And then it is revealed that Emily is planning to sort of take the top job for herself. And all this time, Andy's thinking that she's doing the greatest thing in the world. She's done something smart and necessary, but Emily was just never helping her for the sake of like being helpful. She just wanted a top job for herself. Then we see sort of like a history that Emily says that you had them offer the job to me at Dior because you wanted to get rid of me. And then we sort of see that there is some history around that, and things like that. It's sort of like a sad scene. It's sort of searing. Emily has the sort of anger in herself. Miranda also is sort of angry, but it is a big plot twist because that's when we see like Emily is actually sort of a villain in this movie, which is heartbreaking to me because Emily is definitely my favorite character. She was my favorite character in the first movie, and she's still like a really good one in this movie. But I do get where she's coming from because even in the first movie, Andy knew that she wanted to be a journalist. She was just struggling. She was just dealing with this job. Emily was like a major fashion girl. So after like she was not happy or she was not like working at Vogue, she went to Dior. And I mean, kind of makes sense like what they did with her character, how they made her sort of like more power and image hungry, because that is how like realistically most of the people are. Most of the people that we worship in the fashion industry do want a certain level of stature and sort of fame and money, and it makes sense that they have done that. But my Emily was like, it was a bit heartbreaking to see Emily being slightly the villain. Andy is shocked because Andy has fucked it up. Miranda is furious, and then they realize that this whole situation is so much bigger than just like a magazine sale. It's like a lot about power and ambition, who gets to decide like the future of Runway. And even though Andy is hurt, Miranda in fact goes to the billionaire boyfriend. She tries to talk to him, and then she realizes that it's not gonna happen. She tries to tell him that, we can retain the creative and the human and the artistic aspect of the magazine, but he just sort of gives this stupid AI speech. And that is when Miranda realized, okay, we are fucked. And she's sort of inspired by Andy's idealism, and then they sort of pull together and then they sort of make a plan, and we don't know that plan is. But whatever it is, next day is the Milan runway show or whatever. That show prep is going on, and Andy's like psychotically making like a million calls. Miranda is prepping for the show, Nigel is helping prep for the show, and then we have this like amazing Lady Gaga cameo. It's so fun, it's so funny. But we have this like really fun Lady Gaga cameo. And in the middle of the event planning, Lee comes to Miranda and she's like, my god, we need to leave right now. And Miranda's like, no, like I have a show to host and speech to give. And that's when Andy tells her that, you should probably let Nigel do this. He can do it amazingly. And we have this like really beautiful moment between Miranda and Nigel. I think much pending moment. It was a beautiful moment. She finally like sees him for what he is. And how he's just, my god, it was beautiful. It was a beautiful, I was like almost in tears when that movie was happening. But yeah, then we have this like cute moment, and then we cut to Emily and her boyfriend, who are sitting and having a meeting with BJ Novak, the guy who's selling runway to the billionaire. And then Jay gets a call in the middle of the meeting and he goes to take that call. And then we find out that he's not selling runway to them, but he's selling runway. And but who is he selling to? Then we find out that Andy has convinced Sasha, the billionaire wife who respects art and human and creativity, to buy runway. And now it's all women leading, so it makes sense. I mean, that's the way it should be. So Andy and Miranda go to her home, like her magnificent home, wherever it is. They go and meet her. Shasha, what difficult name, reassures them that they're gonna have like creative direction, and gonna have all the resources and everything. And it's a nice moment because now runway is saved apparently, because Andy is gonna bring like a soul and perspective to them. Miranda's of course there. They have like a major billionaire woman backing them. So it's everything seems all well and good, and it is. I think that was the climax of the movie. I mean, yeah, so Emily's heartbroken that she's not gonna be like the editor in chief of Runway, but what can we do? And kind of serves her right, because her first thought was, when she was planning like her new magazine, she's like, what if the first cover girl is me? And I'm just like, Emily, no girl, no, you can't do that. But it was really nice. And then we have this like really sweet coffee catch up session with Emily and Andy. And we find out now that Emily has been broken up by the boyfriend because men, and now she's working at Coach, which is sort of, I love Coach. I have so much Coach shit. I love Coach, but from Dior to Coach is a downgrade, only in terms of like a career perspective. Coach is of course one of the biggest brands out there, but I mean, she was at Dior, so I mean, obviously. And yeah, so they have like this cute catch up session. Then Emily says, I called you. And Andy's sort of confused, and Emily's like, oh, after you left for the first time 20 years back, I tried to call you to be friends with you. And apparently, Andy like missed that call. And it was just so cute because she wanted to be friends, and then it just didn't happen. And then they have like the new nice exchange. I'm happy for Emily. I think she just got sort of lost in the capitalistic propaganda machine that we're living in. But it was nice. And I do like that how they didn't like villainize, and how they didn't villainize Emily that much, even though she is not like 100% right. But it is very common, and it's very easy to sort of lose your way and sort of want something for yourself, which is not bad. I mean, you should want something for yourself, but in the end I think they didn't like really hate too much on her, or like like really ruin her, which is really important, because people do need like change. And I think Emily is now back on track, and she's gonna do better than ever. And she's obviously one of the most talented people ever, like as far as I can gather. So I'm very glad for her. And then now everyone is at Runway. Nigel is at Runway. Andy's at Runway. Miranda is at Runway. They're all happy. They're all working together. People are moving. Simone Ashley got a promotion. Andy's nerdy assistant also is now into fashion. She's wearing thrifted Gautier, which is a good moment. Andy is back in this like cerulean blue vest. It's super cute. And I mean, yeah, that's how the movie ends. Everyone is on runway. They're working together. They have like this. Andy and Miranda have like a cute moment, and movie's over. That's it. What do I think about the movie? I think it was definitely much better than I expected. I really liked the whole journalism, fashion media angle that they had going on. I think there's also like a really strong thread about like old school magazine culture versus like modern media world. So at one like time, Nigel is like I used to get like 4 weeks in Africa with Avedon, and you now have to sort of pump out likes. Journalism has changed fundamentally, and Runway is no longer a magazine. They allude to that like a lot of times. Like, Runway is not just a magazine. They call Runway like an overpriced book at one point. They're like, it hasn't been a magazine for this long. And how the tension has shifted from to like clicks and speed and cheap content and celebrity content. And they're very open and blunt about it, about how the state of fashion media and how everything is like gone to shit. And that is why I think it's definitely a very optimistic, idealistic movie where fashion media is saved in the end, which is obviously not something that is happening. But I do think Andy brings a definite sense of positivity, because I don't think if Andy was not there, Miranda would have just, I don't know what she would have done. And in a movie where like most of the people are trying to like sell out or cut or optimize everything into like oblivion, this sort of positivity feels very radical and important. And in the end, I'm very glad there was a movie than more than anything else. I think it definitely had its moment. I think they definitely had some beautiful sort of rehashes. Some of the rehash scenes were a bit too much. Like some of the references were just like the closet scene. They just like recreated it like exactly with just like updated brand names, which just didn't work for me. But some of the moments, like the cerulean blue vest, when I saw it in the trailer, I was just like, it's sort of whatever. But when I saw it in the movie, it just like really felt like so cute and just so important. So I do think, I have to say, the movie's marketing and the trailers were like really shit. Like the movie was actually good. I don't know if they were trying to like rage bait us or what, but like I said, I was actually prepared to hit this movie because of just how everything around it was happening. The press tour, I hated that. I mean, I've already made a video on that. You should probably watch that. The press tour was shit. But now I'm realizing that the movie is so much better than its marketing and what they made us believe. So yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a good surprise, I would say. I mean, that's basically Devil Wears Prada. It's like fashion drama. It's like media anxiety. There's some betrayal. There's like a lot of corporate chaos because corporate is everywhere now, and like just enough sincerity to make it work. I think they like really nailed how much idealism they needed, and it's just sort of, it's funny, it's sharp. It is definitely more like a workplace comedy. I think the fashion angle has definitely sort of been taken down a notch. And I don't mean in terms of styling, I just mean like how much fashion, like the first movie was like a fashion movie. This movie, I would not say it's like a major fashion movie. It's definitely set in the fashion industry, but I think there's just so much going on around it. It's journalism, it's what taste is, it's what billionaires are, it's tech bros, it's management fucking consultants. It's a lot of things, but I think the first movie was very clear in its overall like bigger picture point of view. And I think this movie is too, it's just a very different from that one. But I would not say it's a bad movie at all. I think as far as sequels go, I think it definitely makes sense. It was a good movie. I definitely don't think it was as good as the first movie. Was iconic in terms of like from acting to dialogues to writing to everything about that movie was perfect. This movie was a close. I don't think it'll live up to the original, but it was very good for a sequel. Is all I'm gonna say. But yeah, that's pretty much. I just try to like sort of recap this movie. This movie had like a lot of things, so it's almost impossible to recap this like movie in like 30 minutes. But yeah, that's I've just sort of put it together, and I'm probably gonna do like a couple of more videos on this movie. So do stay tuned for that, and thank you so much for watching. Do let me know what do you think of this movie. Probably will watch it again in like some time, because I think the first time I saw it was just like it was so difficult. I was just like taking notes. I didn't like get to enjoy it that much or whatever. But I'm definitely gonna watch it again. I mean, yeah, that's about it. So thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think. Bye.